Chapter 4. Hello, Los Angeles. In 1974, an educational television network in the province of Ontario started producing a show called Witness to Yesterday, where celebrities pretended to be famous historical figures who were being interviewed by a host. Alex was thrilled when he was offered a chance to play the American writer Mark Twain. Mark Twain was one of Alex's favorite authors. Most guests were on the show for only one episode, but Alex knew so much about Mark Twain that he was interviewed in costume as the great author for 2 episodes. He didn't even need to use a script. A year earlier, Alex got a call from Alan Thicke, a Canadian actor, singer, and writer who also hosted game shows in Ontario. Alex had met Alan when Alex interviewed him during an afternoon variety show. He was now working in Los Angeles, a city in California where many TV shows and movies are produced. Alan was writing for a new game show in the United States called The Wizard of Oz, and it needed a host. "Would you be interested?" Alan asked. "Sure," Alex said. He flew to New York City, rehearsed all day, and did a practice round with contestants before flying back to Toronto that evening. Alan called him that same night. He had gotten the job. The Wizard of Oz was going to premiere in July 1973, and Alex would need to move to Los Angeles to film it. His sister Barbara was already living there. Before moving to California, Alex decided to grow a mustache. He was the first game show host on television with a mustache since Groucho Marx in the 1950s on You Bet Your Life. There was one person in Canada that Alex did not want to leave behind. Elaine Colley had been the host of a show called Call Colley. The two had met in Toronto in the early 1970s while Alex was hosting shows there, and they fell in love. Elaine had a 6-year-old daughter named Nikki. Soon after Alex moved to Los Angeles, Elaine and Nikki moved there too. Alex and Elaine got married in 1974. The Wizard of Oz involved a lot of numbers and math. As the host, Alex had to keep them all straight. Once, in a bonus round, a contestant playing for a new car lost. "That's too bad," Alex started to say, but he had been adding up the players' points in his head as they went along. "Wait a minute, the math doesn't work. We made a mistake." Alex wasn't sure what to do. It didn't seem fair to the player. Alex said, "You shouldn't be punished for our mistake, so I am going to give you the car anyway." The audience went wild. Alex thought he'd done the right thing, but his boss, the executive producer, didn't agree. Next time he said, "We'll just stop the tape. Don't give the car away." Alex was enjoying his new life in Los Angeles. Elaine suggested that Alex's mother could come and live with them too. She moved into the guest house on their property. The Wizard of Oz only lasted a year on TV, but Alex quickly got another job hosting a show called High Rollers. High Rollers was a much easier show to host. There wasn't a lot of math. Alex's co-host and the players just rolled giant dice. The show lasted for 2 years. During that same time, Alex hosted another game show in Canada called The $128,000 Question. That show was filmed in Toronto. Alex had to fly back and forth to tape both shows. Alex was very busy, but he loved it. Elaine started doing a lot of charity work in Los Angeles, and Nikki had her grandmother at home to take care of her whenever she needed her. You Bet Your Life. You Bet Your Life was a popular game show that was broadcast on both radio and on television from 1950 to 1961. Contestants were chosen from the audience. They answered a series of questions from different categories. The show was also known for its secret word, which was revealed to the audience at the start of each show. If a contestant said the word, a toy duck dropped from the ceiling with a $100 prize. The duck wore eyeglasses and a mustache to look like the show's host, Groucho Marx. Chapter 5. Introducing Alex Trebek. Alex never turned down work when it was offered. He had 7 jobs in 10 years. He even hosted one show in Canada where he interviewed people while wearing ice skates. The shows never lasted for very long. Most were quickly forgotten. But Alex himself was becoming a familiar face. He didn't know how familiar until a friend of his in Canada sent him a video of a popular Canadian comedy show called SCTV. The show did a sketch about a game show where actor Eugene Levy played a host called Alex Trebek, who was obviously based on Alex. He even had Alex's signature mustache. Alex loved it. He appreciated having something to laugh about because his personal life wasn't as happy as it had been. His father was sick with cancer, so the family often traveled to Canada to see him. Back in Los Angeles, Alex's marriage to Elaine was not working out. They still loved each other, but they did not want to be married anymore. Around that time, Alex was hosting a show in Los Angeles called Battle Stars. In it, celebrities answered questions about themselves, and contestants tried to guess whether or not they were telling the truth. One of the celebrities was a young comedian named Jerry Seinfeld, who went on to have his own very popular TV show, Seinfeld. Battlestars aired in the middle of the day and didn't have a large audience. People just didn't think the game was very fun to watch. At that time, one of the most popular game shows was Wheel of Fortune, loosely based on the game of Hangman. Contestants guessed consonants and vowels to try to solve a word puzzle. It was created by one of the most successful television hosts and game show creators in the United States, Merv Griffin. One day in 1980, Alex got a call from the vice president of Merv Griffin's production company. "We're scheduled to tape a wheel tournament this weekend," he said. The host of the show was in the hospital and they needed a replacement fast. Alex's many years of hosting different shows had earned him a good reputation. Merv knew he could count on Alex to do a good job on a short notice. Alex stepped in to host the tournament. Merv was pleased with how good he was. Alex and Elaine got divorced in 1981 and no longer lived together, but they were still the best of friends. In fact, they bought houses across the street from each other. Alex's mother, Lucille, moved in with Elaine so she could help take care of Nikki while Elaine was at work. In the evening, she came over to see Alex. He was glad to have his mother with him, especially after his father died of cancer in January 1982. Although Alex missed him, he knew that whatever came next in life, his father would be proud of him, but he couldn't yet imagine just how much his life was about to change. Merv Griffin, July 6, 1925 to August 12, 2007. Merv Griffin was a TV host and producer. He had his own popular talk show, The Merv Griffin Show, which ran from 1969 to 1986. He started his career as a singer on the radio and later formed his own record label. He performed in movies, but his real fame came when he started hosting a talk show where he interviewed celebrity guests. It won 11 Emmy Awards. He went on to create other shows including Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy! Merv also wrote a little song to be played while the contestants were writing their answers in the final round of Jeopardy! The now famous tune is called Think. Chapter 6. This is Jeopardy! A couple of years after Alex filled in on Wheel of Fortune, that show, now hosted by Pat Sajak, went into syndication. That meant the show was sold to different local channels all across the country that could decide when to put it on. Wheel was a half an hour long and usually ran in the evenings. The show's producer, Merv Griffin, wanted to create another show that he could sell with Wheel of Fortune to fill an entire hour in the evenings. He decided to bring back a show that he had produced from 1964 to 1975. It was called Jeopardy! And it tested contestants on their knowledge in different areas of trivia. Instead of contestants answering questions, they were given clues in the form of an answer. Then they had to come up with the question. According to Merv, he got the idea from his wife, Julin. Merv remembered what a good job Alex had done when he stepped in to host the tournament on Wheel of Fortune. He decided to offer him the job as the new host of the show. The job didn't pay much, so Alex asked Merv if he could also be one of the producers who helped put the show together. Merv agreed. Alex's first episode aired on September 10, 1984. Not many people watched it. The very first clue selected by a contestant was, "These rodents first got to America by stowing away on ships." The correct response was, "What are rats?" If the contestant did not phrase the response as a question, it didn't count. Even after several months, Jeopardy's audience remained small. One of the distributors trying to sell the program claimed it was because the questions were too hard. Alex promised him that he would make the questions easier, but he didn't actually change them at all. To raise interest in the show, Alex traveled around the country, appearing on morning shows with Pat Sajak and Will's co-host Vanna White. He went along on trips to look for contestants. The show put out an announcement about this search, and people came in to take a 50-question test. Only people who scored high enough were considered for the show. Sometimes while the tests were being graded, Alex would go out and talk with the people who hoped to pass the test and be on the show. Little by little, the show started to catch on. Viewers at home didn't think the questions were too hard. In fact, they liked challenging themselves by trying to guess the clues from the comfort of their couches. The little song Merv Griffin had written to play while the contestants thought about their final answers took on a life of its own. When people in everyday life were asked difficult questions, they would often start humming the song while they figured out an answer. For the first time in his life, Alex had a job that seemed like it was going to last a while. He started thinking about other things he'd like to do in the world. When Alex began hosting Jeopardy! In 1984, the country of Ethiopia in Africa was experiencing a terrible famine. People there were starving. Alex started working with World Vision, a charity that helped people all over the world. When he wasn't taping the show, he traveled to Ethiopia and other countries that needed help. He didn't go as a TV personality. He just helped distribute things to people who needed them. Alex did perform as a show host with the USO, or United Service Organizations. He visited the United States troops who were stationed abroad and invited them to play rounds of Jeopardy live on stage. He also got involved in protecting animals, especially his favorite, the musk ox. Alex once read that when musk oxen were threatened by predators, the males formed a circle around the calves and cows, their horns facing out, to protect them. As long as they stood together, they were safe. Alex thought that was a great example to live by. As Jeopardy got even more popular, the show started running special tournaments. In 1987, they held the first team tournament for contestants in high school. The following year, they held the first tournament for college students. Alex enjoyed meeting different people, but he never got to talk much to any of the contestants. The show taped 5 episodes a day, with only 15 minutes between each game. Besides, Alex never wanted any contestant to feel like he favored one over the other. He was rooting for all of them. Jeopardy rules. Jeopardy has 3 rounds: Jeopardy, Double Jeopardy, and Final Jeopardy. There are 6 subject categories in each of the first 2 rounds. Each category has 5 clues or questions. In the Jeopardy round, clues are worth $200 up to $1,000. In Double Jeopardy, clues are worth $400 to $2,000. The clues are given in the form of answers, and contestants must give a reply in the form of a question or it doesn't count. After a clue is revealed, the first contestant hit their buzzers gets to give a response that fits the clue. If they are right, they win the value of that clue and they get to choose the next clue. If they get it wrong, they lose that amount and another contestant gets a chance to answer. Daily doubles are hitting on the game board in the first 2 rounds. They give contestants the chance to earn even more money. In Final Jeopardy, there's only a single clue. The contestants are shown the subject category and then place their bets based on that topic. They are given a clue and 30 seconds to write down their question, which is later revealed on their screen. If they are correct, they get to add that amount to their total score. If they're wrong, they lose that amount. The contestant with the highest score at the end of Final Jeopardy is the winner and gets to keep the amount of money they've won. They then return to play another game. Chapter 7. A world-famous mustache. Jeopardy was filmed in front of a live audience. Alex taped 2 days a week, 5 shows a day. In between each show, he changed his suit to make it look like it was a new day. He tried to keep each game a little different. He would never think about what he was going to say until right before he went on. He always tried to think of a variety of ways to welcome the audience. He might say, "Happy Valentine's Day," if he knew the show was going to air on TV that day. During the commercial breaks, Alex would talk to the audience. Every audience seemed to ask him the same questions. What's your favorite color? Gray, to match my personality. What are your favorite Jeopardy categories? Geography, movies, and movies about geography. How would you do as a contestant? A good 30-year-old would clean my clock. In 1988, a friend of Alex's introduced him to a woman named Jean Currivan. Not long after she and Alex started dating, Alex went to Thailand to do some work for World Vision. When he came back, he brought Jean a present, a little bamboo truck. When Jean opened the back of the truck, she found another gift inside, a sapphire and diamond ring. Alex asked her to marry him, and Jean said yes. They got married in April 1990 at the Regency Club in Westwood, California. At the altar, the minister asked, "Do you, Alex, take Jean to be your wife?" Alex replied as if he were hosting the show. The answer is yes. Just 3 weeks after their wedding, Alex and Jean discovered they were expecting a baby. Alex's son Matthew was born February 1991, a few months after Alex won his second Outstanding Game Show Host Emmy Award for Jeopardy! The Emmy is awarded for excellence in television programming. In 1993, Alex and Jean had a daughter, Emily. Jeopardy! Added a new tournament where celebrities play for charity. It was fun watching stars try to guess answers, but everyone could see that the game had to be made a little easier for them because they hadn't earned their spot the way the actual contestants did. The first celebrity tournament ran on October 26, 1992. The first players were actress Cara Burnett, Donna Mills, and TV host Regis Philbin. The real stars of Jeopardy! Were the everyday people who competed. Some of them really stood out because they answered so many questions correctly. People like Frank Spangenberg, a policeman who won 5 days in a row. That was the maximum number of days any contestant was allowed to compete. The producers of the show worried that if a person continued to win for more than a week, the audience might start to think that person had an unfair advantage. By the end of his week in 1990, everyone was cheering for Frank. Another big winner was Brad Rutter, who was a college student when he first appeared on Jeopardy! He also won 5 days in a row. Although Alex didn't think of himself as one of the stars of the show, he was quickly becoming everyone's favorite game show host. He appeared on talk shows like Late Night with David Letterman. He also appeared in movies like White Men Can't Jump and TV shows including Cheers, Saturday Night Live, and The Golden Girls as himself. As cartoon version of Alex even appeared on The Simpsons. Alex's face was so familiar that it was a big shock to most of the audience when he decided to shave his mustache in 2001. By that point, Alex had worn it for almost 30 years. He was about to tape his final show of the day. Sitting in the makeup chair, he just grabbed a razor and shaved it off. Then he walked out on stage. Back at home, Alex talked to his family for several minutes before saying, "Anyone notice anything different about Dad?" The family was stunned. Matthew was so shocked he burst into tears. Reports of Alex shaving his mustache were in newspapers and magazines all over the country. That's how famous he and his mustache had become. And that is the end for today. Join us tomorrow to finish up the book. Who was Alex Trebek?